One thing about giving credit is ensuring that you do so when it is due. You see, my biggest credit that I will give to PlayStation is the fact that I still have my PlayStation. I still use my PlayStation. It is a platform that, if it offers me a good value, you're going to see me there. And I played The Division on there. It's probably one of my most played games. And so, yes, I still maintain my PlayStation platform. However, the value proposition for PlayStation has dwindled and diminished in the last few years. Actually, a lot longer than that, because Steam is a thing, and then you have Xbox on their, basically on their neck right now, just pretty much giving out games at a great value proposition. So I made a video where I talked about Xbox's games coming up, and one of my audience members said Xbox lineup, because that's what I mentioned in the video. They said more like a list of upcoming multi-platform games. This is just downplaying, not to give Xbox any kind of, credit in this particular area. You know what's funny though is I'm literally looking around and I see an article from Insider Gaming. The article is very interesting. It's titled 8 Biggest PlayStation Games Coming in 2025. This is very interesting. It's written by Andrew Heighton. I think that's how you say the name. And when I looked through the list of these 8 games, I was quite surprised. This person starts out by saying Sony's never-ending success is sure to carry on in 2025 with a stacked schedule already planned. That's very interesting. Never-ending success. Okay, let's give it to him. Between PS5 exclusives and major third-party releases, it's going to be a big year. So let's take you through the biggest PlayStation games set to launch in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, if you read this paragraph and you walked away, you would think that PlayStation was pretty much coming in with at least 5 games. When they go through and talk about, as they're a PS5 owner, they're eager to know what's next after investing serious time in big titles like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Stellar Blade Rise of Ronin, and Astrobot, of which of all these games, PlayStation's only first-party game in this mix is Astrobot, and more. Wow. The nature of the games industry means there's little time to dwell, though, and I'm already looking forward to 2025. Now, they talk about this. Biggest PS5 exclusives coming in 2025, and they said, as it stands, there are only 2 major PS5 exclusives with official release dates for 2025. This can change at any moment's notice, but we'll go with what we know. Number 1, Ghost of Yotei, and Death Stranding 2 on the beach. That's it. So, if we look very closely, though, we can see that Death Stranding on the beach, if we follow this audience member's, line of thinking, it's more like a multi-platform game. But I would give credit to PlayStation because it is a PlayStation game. I'm not going to stay here in this pettiness. However, I want to go ahead and point out that the downplaying is something that happens all the time. Now, after that, they jump into this thing called Biggest PS5 Games, and Doom Dark Ages starts it out. Then they move on to Grand Theft Auto 6. Then they move on to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And then they move on to Assassin's Creed Shadows and Borderlands 4 and Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. And then that's the end of the article after all is being said and done in terms of the descriptions of these games. Do you guys see what's going on? Now, PlayStation games are now games that Xbox is making. It goes back to what Matt Piscatella said a few weeks ago. I was reading the articles that some of you were, you were sending it to me. You were pointing it out saying, hey, VG, this is what you've been talking about for the longest time. Because Matt Piscatella is cited as saying, if you look at what, PlayStation is doing, they're selling a bunch of games, but from what I see, a lot of it seems like it's got a lot of Microsoft on there. It's the article that Games Radar published. It says, despite a rocky couple of years, this is how they usually start any Xbox thing, analysts reckons Xbox's console war is, in quote, actually looking pretty bright. Xbox isn't doing a console war, but, I guess we can put the console war in quotes. If you look at the PlayStation sales chart, you see a lot of Microsoft on there. You look at the results in their earnings reports and you go, okay, that looks pretty darn good. This is Matt Piscatella. He's one of those folk that if you probably sat down and spoke with him, you would get so much realness. The way he words even his publications and stuff that he puts out there is just so organic in my mind anyways. Check this out. While in the past few years have become somewhat up and down for Xbox as a whole, one industry analyst believes the company is starting to correct course in time for a bumper 2025 for the brand. No, they've always been on this track. I don't know how anybody can think that this is them just jumping in and starting to say, oh no, the ship was going all right, now we're turning. No. They've been setting themselves up for overnight success for the last 6 years, if not 7. What do you guys really think just happened overnight? Do you think that, oh, after they bought Activision Blizzard, then they built Game Pass? Do you think that they bought Activision Blizzard and then they decided to do Play Anywhere? These were functional aspects of their ecosystem that they were already building and putting into perspective. So when the opportunity presented itself to acquire two big studios, it was too easy for those studios to be integrated into their ecosystem and has now made them look like they're having a bumper 2025. When they first purchased Bethesda, do y'all remember the amount of downplaying that was done on the internet with people saying, I don't really play a lot of Bethesda games? Yet, even with all that, you're seeing now that PlayStation fans are celebrating the fact that they're going to be in 2025 potentially getting not one, but two games from Bethesda. I remember the Bethesda acquisition. They were like, nobody really plays those Bethesda games anyways. I was reading these comments on the internet and people were downplaying it. Now they want to call it multi-platform games. Again, this is very interesting because the whole paradigm has shifted. In an interview with Games Raiders Plus, Matt Piscatella, executive director of games at Circana, discuss Xbox past, present, and future, believing the company's favors are about to turn. Well, yeah, they've been working on this for a long time. Dave Ramsey says something. He says all of the people that come around and say overnight success, many of them really annoy him because people don't realize that overnight success is 20 years in the making. They don't realize that overnight success is something that you've been doing and you're trying to do for the longest time. They think it's just something that happened all of a sudden. A lot of people keep saying, oh, they just bought Activision Blizzard and that's just put them. No. They acquired Activision Blizzard and put their games on Game Pass. That's what changed the game. It is exactly what PlayStation was freaking out in their PlayStation, document that got leaked in the hacked, because they realized and they understood that this was going to go ahead and disrupt their business significantly. All that money that PlayStation had access to with a lot of better version Call of Duty no longer was going to be there. No exceptions for them. They saw it coming. They said it. It was a day and date threat. That's how they actually tagged it. For you, ladies and gentlemen, that use Game Pass, for you, it is a customer benefit. For Xbox, it is a platform benefit in the sense that you use that benefit. For PlayStation, they tagged it as day and date threat. Then they said post-acquisition, Microsoft will put Activision games on Game Pass, day and date. This document was not analyzed as the acquisition of Activision in a vacuum. It was analyzed as Activision Blizzard in the ecosystem of Xbox. Executive director, so let's keep going. If you look at what's going on now in the sales charts, you look at like the PlayStation chart, you see a lot of Microsoft on there. And the more that they can broaden the appeal of their products, their IP across the platform holders, why not do that? Why not? For Piscatella, the key to Xbox's future is to embrace other platforms rather than competing with them, and to ensure that even if console sales falter, as they have in recent years, they can still make up for that with sales of their games. Everybody wants to sell their games. Because if Xbox had 60 million consoles on the market, they would lock the ecosystem down to themselves. But they've realized that 30 million consoles sell in, sell through, probably around 20 million when you kind of think about it, because I usually reduce it by, 27 million. Let's just call, let's just say when you remove selling and sell through, somewhere around 20, 21, 22 million. It's not enough for you to keep an ecosystem. Hence, that's why they went ahead and they diversified. That's exactly why they diversified, and they've been diversifying for years, and everybody had been castigating and criticizing them, not paying attention to what they were doing, and PlayStation basically is like, hey, they can supply multi-game. Subscription 50%, console 50%, PC 60%. Again, when this document came out, I saw a lot of PlayStation fans trying to actually deny this document. Like some of you here in the comment section, you were doing some of the weirdest stuff. Can you deny the Marvel Spider-Man 2 leak and the Wolverine PC leak that came out of this hack? You can't. That already tells you that, a lot more stuff got out there that PlayStation probably didn't want us to see. And I'm sure Xbox more than likely didn't even, maybe they knew, maybe they didn't know, maybe they already understood their position and they just didn't pay attention to what all the noise was. You look at the results in their earnings reports and you go, okay, that looks pretty darn good. Even though they recognize the console sales themselves are lagging for them, you look at it that way and the future is actually looking pretty bright. Although, yeah, it's been a rocky couple of years for sure, for sure. With Xbox having invested so heavily in expanding Game Pass, to which subscriptions have long since begun to plateau, Piscatella believes that one of the service's most important aspects is a marketing machine for Xbox's titles, a part of doing things like driving sales on other platforms and other ecosystems. When games journalists say this, and when they put the plateau in front of everybody, what we're not getting is where are the numbers that they're getting plateau from? Because Xbox isn't unveiling the numbers. All the numbers that we had were numbers that first leaked, and then PlayStation alluded to, so I'm talking 25 million, 29 million, and then Sarah Bond said at 34 million, which when we go back and remove the conversions or whatever it is, the conversions are around maybe putting Game Pass users at about 30 million. Now, we don't know what the Call of Duty and Indiana Jones has done for Game Pass, so saying plateau is weird, seeing how even Piscatella himself would not have said plateau because he reported the numbers that the highest engagement for Call of Duty on Xbox was seen in this particular cycle. Anyways, just putting that out there. Piscatella believes that one of the most important aspects is as a marketing for Xbox titles. Guys, I'm telling you, Game Pass does this weird thing. I've seen a lot of people say, I don't want Game Pass. I don't like Game Pass. See, you got to understand, this thing is a free, low-tier, low-cost marketing platform for Xbox. I don't want Game Pass. I don't like Game Pass. Okay. I'm going to go to Steam and I'm going to buy it because I want to pay for it. Okay. Ain't nobody holding you back. Pay for it. I don't like Game Pass. I know this is a stupid subscription service, man. What the heck? Like, it's such a stupid proposition. Okay. I like owning my games. Okay. Own your game then. I mean, ain't nobody stopping you. That's kind of the idea here. And I strongly believe that as people don't realize it, they'll get it later. Everybody comes around 4 years later. He views Game Pass as an important part of Xbox brand, but believes that Xbox's move to a more balanced approach, as opposed to their previous focus on the service, is a smart one. I think it's really nice. It's a really nice role to fill in a portfolio of products being offered to consumers, but perhaps a strategy of going all in on just that, course correcting from that seems to have been a good decision. They continue to say this course correcting like, oh, they were going to go all in on Game Pass. I remember testing out xCloud. Does anybody remember the beta for xCloud around 2019, 2020? This had nothing to do with Game Pass. It was just Xbox saying, sign up here and test out our cloud infrastructure, and you can play these games on your mobile phones. In there were some titles that were from third-party publishers, because Xbox didn't even have enough titles to put in there that were theirs. So they put in games like Tekken and some other games. Does anybody remember this? Because I remember this very carefully. And I remember taking an old Motorola phone, and on that phone, I was testing Tekken, and the latency was good. I was like, this is weird. Now you can play a game that requires combos and precision inputs on over a stream. So this is, I don't know, maybe they're misunderstanding what Matt Piscatella is saying, or maybe he was not really aware of these little, sprinkles of what was going on. Hear this out. Piscatella notes that with games such as Helldivers 2, PlayStation has made more of an effort to capture audiences on other platforms, but that Xbox has been far more aggressive in this regard. And if the company wants to continue its upward trajectory, then continue to sell well across platforms will be exactly how Xbox and Microsoft can do it. They know that. Everybody knows that. I know it's on the fanboy level that they're going to call it multi-platform games. Like, that is a slight. Like, that's a slur. Like, multi-plat is a slur for some of the folk out here that talk about the gaming on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, exclusivity for you is everything. Well, exclusivity can only make money for you in certain circumstances. And the more these guys, PlayStation and Xbox, continue to compete and change the game, they continue to make Nintendo strong, because Nintendo has basically kept the tradition. You already know where Nintendo stands. However, Xbox and PlayStation, them dabbling into everything else, has put them in a really precarious position. So it's either they go all in, or they continue to pretend and let one person lead the game, of which Xbox is now basically leading. Their fears and their biggest threat, that's a threat that PlayStation basically had when this document leaked, it's now basically realized. They've been leapfrogged over. Hear it out. Microsoft, Activision positions it to leapfrog our current pillars. Then they come out here and say Sony's pillars are already dated and behind the competition. This document is probably the best gift of 2024, and today being the last day of the year, 2023 actually, and today being the last day of the year 2024, I think we're going into a very different gaming scene for now. It's going to be very interesting. I know PlayStation has some tricks under its sleeves, but it really needs to be very meticulous on how it acts because, man, it has given ground. It really did concede ground in trying to play this exclusivity thing. It did. It just didn't realize that there's a long-term cost for you doing a lot of things for the now, money hiding games and so on and so forth. And here we see the results. Talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate you guys so much. Peace out.